Okay, good evening. It is really a blessing to be here with you all tonight. Thank you again for the wonderful dinner. It was very, very delicious, and we enjoyed the fellowship as well. Greetings, first of all, from our church in Union City, Pennsylvania, especially from my parents, Tom and Darlene Pafkov, we're actually staying with my Aunt Ann and Uncle Jim Pafkov, and they send their greetings as well for those of you who know them. And also greetings from our church in Brazil, in Nepomuceno, Brazil.
Yeah. Katie is going to present you that because I'm not confident about my English yet, but sometimes I will interrupt her and say something for you. I'm Elton. I grew up not as a orphan in the boys' home. My dad grew up there as an orphan, and then he moved away, and then Harry invited him to go back and work there, and then he spent all his life there. So we met there because she spent 12 years there, and then we are here. And we are here now and enjoying that. Thank you for having us, okay?
Yeah, so tonight we are going to share with you about the ministry in Nepo. The home is referred to as the Nazarene Association for the Protection of Children and Adolescents, and it is affectionately known as Família Donai in Portuguese. If you can see where that little arrow is, it's located in kind of the southern eastern part of Brazil. We're about, for those of you who know CLM, we're about 15 hours from there, and then those of you who were just in Paraguay, we're a little even further from there.
Yep.
But yeah, so we're in southeastern Brazil in a little town called Nepomuceno. The home has been around for about 60 years now. It's been serving abandoned and abused and neglected children since 1964. And a lot of people have passed through there and spent time working there and serving there. But these three families really dedicated their lives and their life's work to the home and the ministry there. The Boich family, the Herring family, and the Barbosa family. And another family that we want to kind of a little share, Elton mentioned a little bit, but we want to share a little bit about his family there, the Brandão family. These are his parents here on the...
This is my dad.
Sorry.
This is my dad, and this is my mom.
Mm-hmm. And so his dad, as he mentioned, his dad was actually abandoned by his mom. She left him there when he was younger. And so he grew up at the boys' home. His mom didn't think she could care for him, so she went to care for his sisters and left him at the boys' home. And he grew up there, and then he, as a young adult, he was invited to come back and work at the boys' home. So he worked there as a maintenance man and a gardener for over 30 years. And then his mom, Mirtris, she actually was a neighbor. She grew up right next door to the boys' home. And so she started working there as a young adult. They met, fell in love, and they spent their life. She worked for 30 years there as a cook at the home. And they have this family today. They raised their 3 children there at the home. So Elton and his brother and sister grew up at the home as well, serving alongside his parents. And they really have a heart for the ministry there and the home there because of that. And so Elton obviously worked at the home for a while, and then when he was a young adult, he went off to get his degree, and then he had to serve for a year in the army that's required in Brazil, and then he came back to work at the home. And during the time I was working there as well, we both worked as caregivers, and we ended up getting married, and we took over the directorship of the home. We were directors of the home for about 6 years, a little more than 6 years. And so we served as the directors down there, and we actually started raising our family down there. It's hard to see the picture, but we have 3 little girls who Rachel is 5 and Emily is 4 and Anna is almost 3, she'll tell you. But so we have these 3 little girls, and they grew up or born there in Brazil. And we actually, Elton, from the time before we were even married, we tried to get him a tourist visa to be able to come to the States, to be able to visit my family, meet my family and friends, and for we to be able to visit churches and church camps as well to share about the ministry there in Nepo. And every time he was denied. So he was denied 3 times to the United States, his tourist visa, and 1 time to Canada. So we just really felt, okay, the Lord's really closing these doors every time we've tried. And so when we went to the consulate to register our last daughter, Anna, as an American citizen, we finally just said to them, what can we do? And they said, nothing. You will probably get a denial every single time. They said, just stop trying because you're just pretty much wasting your money. And they said, the only thing you can do is get a green card visa. We didn't necessarily want a green card visa involves moving to the States. We weren't necessarily wanting to go that route, but we really felt like the Lord was leading in that direction with all these denials. And so we started that process. It's a long, bureaucratic process, a lot of red tape involved, but we finally, last year, his green card visa was approved. And so we moved here, to Pennsylvania in November of last year. And so we have to be here for 3 years until he can get citizenship. And then once he gets citizenship, he can come and go. So we're here for now for these 3 years, and thankful that we can be at churches like this to share about the ministry in Nepo there.
Yeah, we are not here to talk about us,
Yeah,
okay?
so,
We are here
so
to
we'll
talk
move
about.
on.
But that
this-
is a good way to introduce us and to say, like, my dad is a fruit of the
Yeah,
home
yeah.
since '64. The Boyd family were there when he went there as a boy, 12 years, and then his life just changed because that. And we are here because that.
Yeah,
So just
for sure.
to introduce about it.
So this next picture here is a picture from the home from many years ago. So, and then if you want to go to the next one. And this is, go ahead. This is now more recent picture. You can see there's extensive grounds, a lot of buildings, and the home. If
Yeah.
you want to look, go ahead.
Here is the boys' home actually, like the boys live there, but before they lived here, and they used to have 70 kids there, and now they have just 10 here. What changed? A lots of things in Brazilian law changed, and then you cannot have more orphanage. That is a house, like they have a dining room, a living room, and they have their own bedroom, and then looks like a house and as a family. And we start having a couple taking care of them, and then now they have a social father and social mother to take care of them and teach them. And we do that. They still do that. They have a devotion with the kids all day, and they are not allowed to do it, but the government know we do, and we are there because we are able to do that. So that is why change. And we are explaining what they are doing with all the prepared now.
So we have just also, so you can see as well, they do have gardens, extensive gardens, and then this long building here, it has a cafeteria where they host the after-school program, where they give them meals, and then there's also apartments there for any short-termers who would be interested in going down, and on that side over there is the director's home, and then a garage and like a workshop where the boys also have some tools and different things there as well. So the home is overseen by a board of directors. The members of the board of directors are made up from members of the ACC churches down there in Brazil, and they do meet several times throughout the year. But then the day-to-day operations are overseen by the current directors of the home, which are Max and Leticia, and they just had a baby, Laura, their first child, in November, right before we left. Leticia used to be a caregiver when I was there, actually. We both worked as caregivers together. She worked there for many years as a caregiver, and then at the time, he was not her husband, but he also served as, Max also worked as a caregiver as well. And then they got married and took over the directorship. They trained under Elton for about a year because we knew we'd eventually be moving back to the States once our visa was approved. And so they trained under Elton, and they've been in that role for a little over a year now as well. By law, the home is required to have a technical team, and so that's composed of a social worker and a psychologist. And these ladies work not only with the boys, but also with the families, with that reintegration process as they try and move from getting the boys from the home back into their families. We are blessed with a really good staff there at the home. They have a cook, a cleaning lady, a farmhand, a maintenance worker, some caregivers, and then a secretary. So thankfully we have a good staff in place there. Staff does often rotate, and so if you notice here, actually the last time we spoke in Mansfield, this was a different caregiver couple. They just currently lost 2 caregiver couples who left within the past month or so, and now they have this new caregiver couple. It is a very challenging position to be in. The boys, obviously, that come into our homes are the ones that have been rejected by no one wants them. I mean, the families don't want them, extended family doesn't want them, and so they come in with their own, obviously, set of challenges and problems, and so it's a tough role to be in, these caregivers.
Yeah, I also stop on this time to ask you for pray for the couples who take over or take care of the kids in the house. That is not an easy job. they invite, they spend all their time with the kids, and that is a really hard job because all the kids who is there, it's because they have lots of problem. Like I keep saying, when you have a 2 years old kid going to the orphanage, someone else can take care of them, like uncle or grandmothers, they can take care of them. But when they become like teenagers and they are not able to do that anymore, they send for the house, and they have like their parents abandon them, and then another family abandon them, and then they have lots of problem. And sometimes when they are working, they think the kids is against them, like they're doing something to prove them. But that is the time that they are asking for a limit, and sometimes it's too hard to understand it, and they just have a like, I am not able to stay here because that they have a good big rotation of the couples, and they are now looking for a new couple, and it's so hard to find because it's a lot of things involved. We always have that, God always have a couples to go there, but it's a challenge to find them. And they are in the house all the time with the kids. We have to trust them, and that is so hard. And because that, I stop this time and ask you, when you remember about the boys' home, pray for the couples because that is a hard job. Okay.
So these are currently the boys who live at the home. As Elton said, many years ago, actually, when I first arrived at the home, there was almost 70 boys there. So it's really changed the way that the laws are in Brazil. They're no longer allowed to have that many children at a home at one point in time. They're actually only legally allowed to have 20. We generally average around 10 to 12. So these are the boys who are currently living here. Those two little toddlers actually just arrived in the past 2 weeks. They were actually with their parents. Their parents still wanted them, but they were just being terribly treated, and the state had to step in, which is rare. Actually, a lot of the times the state will overlook, and a lot of the children fall through the cracks because it's not good for the state to have children in the home. Like, it doesn't look good on paper, and so a lot of children just kind of get overlooked by the system, and they turn a blind eye to a lot of these cases. So that it was rare that these younger children would come to us. But they've been doing really well. They came really sick and really frail and really, really poorly cared for. But they've been doing really well in their 2 weeks that they've been there. But so the idea is we care for these boys at the home 24/7, but because we have such an extensive property and people to help, we wanted to be able to reach out to more children and help more children. And so we started the after-school program a few years back. School in Brazil is only half day, so you either go in the morning or the afternoon. So the program runs both in the morning and in the afternoon. And at the after-school program, they do devotionals. They have a time for tutoring, homework. They feed them several meals when they're there. It's just there's a lot of different activities that go on. They have different lessons as well, guitar lessons and computer classes as well. They're currently looking for an English teacher. They like to offer English for the boys to get them. They learn English in school, but they don't really learn English in school, and so it's nice as a way for them to have this here as a extra reinforcement, but also kind of to encourage them to look, there's a bigger world out there. And so that's also a great way for short-termers to be involved with the after-school program teaching English. On this next slide here, there's a girl who was there last year. She taught English, Cynthia, as part of our she was a short-termer who came as part of the after-school program. This was her going-away party. So the after-school program not only involves different people, members from the community, but we also have a lot of our church involved as well. So these are some ladies who came to volunteer, and they ministered to the kids. The after-school program is also open to girls, so we do have it for both boys and girls. And throughout the year, so throughout the school year, they'll invite the families in, and they'll have events for the family on like a Saturday. And this is our pastor, actually, of the church down there, of our ACC church down there in Brazil, and he's sharing the gospel with the families who are there that day.
They just have a family party this last weekend.
Yeah, they had one this past Wednesday. It was a day off. It was a national holiday in Brazil, and so they had one this past Wednesday. And then the school year in Brazil actually starts in February and runs through December. And so this was the end of the year wrap-up party last year. And now this year it started again in February. And they have 23 boys and girls enrolled in that program this year.
Yeah, what that means is we are talking about two different projects. We have the boys' home that is 724, and then we start this other program. All the kids who have age to participate of this after-school program is allowed to go, but not that don't mean the kids from this program is from the boys' home. And now we have two different projects. With more, we can reach more kids and their family. And I like to say something like is different between that is the kids that is living in the house, we can teach them fast. But as we have a psychologist and social work working with their family, that means the family want the kids, and then the kids go to their family back. That doesn't mean the family is ready to receive them. And then always they go to the family and go back to the boys' home. That is big traumatizing to them. But how fast we can teach them, how fast we lose all the job because they forget everything because the boys' home cannot have contact with him when they go back. And we lose everything because they go back to that reality. And what happened after school program, it's slow to teach them because they do not spend that much time in there. But all they learn today, they will bring today to their house, and they can change in the house with their parents, and they do not break up the relationship. That is the difference between that. So it's another challenge because we are working with kids who have a family, like they can lie about what is happening there, and they could have a big problem. But it's another difference is the judge decide who is going to the shelter or the orphanage, and the staffs there can decide how many kids they want to reach as an after-school program. They have a potential to have like 100 kids there. We just start that before we left, and then the couple have to learn how to take over of all the property, and now they are thinking about growing up with the project. And now this year they're starting with 23 kids, and they have a potential to be 100. Depends of them, not about the judge.
Yeah, every year they increase. So this year they have 23 kids currently enrolled, but they have a goal of getting 30 kids enrolled by the end of the year. And what Elton was saying about traumatizing, there's actually on the picture of the boys that are currently living there, there's actually a boy who's there who he's not actually pictured, sorry, because he actually just this past week came back. He was a boy that was living there when we were there, and he was sent back to live with his mom and his brothers. The judge approved that return to his home, and it was terrible. I mean, it did not go well at all, and so now he was removed from his home again and is back living at the home. So there's a lot of this in their lives. There's a lot of these traumatizing events that happen, and so and it's really a challenge to deal with everything that they're dealing with. I mean, these children are so traumatized. So another aspect of the home is the farm. So the home raises cattle and pigs and chickens, and the chickens are also used for not only meat but also for eggs. And then there's also the gardens, and the gardens and the farm serve like a kind of a multi-purpose. Not only does it help with the budget, so obviously we're raising what we're eating and growing, and that helps with the bottom line, but also the boys work a lot in the gardens and with the animals, and it's good therapy for them, but it's also really good to teach them responsibility and chores, and especially because the area in Nepo is very agricultural, and so when they turn 18, they're not allowed to work before they turn 18, but once they turn 18, then they're expected to go out and get a job and start life and thrive, and so these skills that they learn here on the farm and in the gardens and stuff, especially they have a coffee plantation. It's kind of hard to see in that picture up there, but they have a coffee plantation there as well. Those skills that they learn in the day-to-day there is very helpful to them as they grow up and go out into the workforce there.
Yeah, Katie said they're not allowed to work. Yeah, in Brazil, before 18, no one is allowed to work. They can learn. Because that, we have a big challenge to teach them how to work and how to learn to be responsible. And then we just have something came on our mind, and now we call that a school farm. and we're teaching them at that farm, and now they are able and they can do it. They are going there not to work, but to learn how to work, and now they can do it, but they cannot force them to go. That's good. I believe that too. If they want to go, they can go and learn. They have a chance to learn this.
So what are some ways that you can help? By praying and giving and going. And we do want to thank the Richmond congregation because we know that you have supported NEPO both financially and with your prayers, and that is so valuable. Your prayer support for the boys, for the caregivers, like Alton was mentioning, for the after-school kids program, for the families that are involved with that. Just your prayer support is so vital. Also, your giving, we know that the Richmond Church, personally, we'd like to thank you too, because we know you've supported our family, and we know you've supported the ministry down there. And we even remember a few years ago, your VBS raised funds to send down for our boys down there, and they still use that sports equipment to this day. So little things like that is so important to the ministry down there. And by going, I realize it's a reality for many of you will not get the chance to go, but there are several young kids here. If you feel the Lord leading you to go for 2 weeks or 2 months or even 2 years, it really will, it's a life-changing experience. Some short-termers that have been at NEPO specifically, Kevin King went many years ago, and he actually ended up marrying a lady from NEPO, from the town of NEPO, and then they went on to be directors down at CLM, our orphanage down in another orphanage we have down in Brazil. And then myself, I went down, I was supposed to go for 6 months, and I ended up staying almost 12 years. And I came home married with 3 kids, so the Lord really does amazing things. And
for the young, you don't have to marry there. Okay?
Yeah.
That is not a law. You can just go and serve that,
Yeah.
and then come back. But if you
Yeah.
have a good person there too.
Yeah, Cynthia went down and she didn't come home married, so it is
Yeah.
possible to go and come home not married. Cynthia is actually from Germany originally, and she's now in the Worcester, Ohio area. And she came down to NEPO for a few months last year and really helped out teaching English. And she didn't really speak Portuguese, but God is bigger than a language barrier, and she was a huge blessing to the home and the kids there. And I believe she was blessed also in return. So just some examples of different people have gone through there. These are our contacts. If you would like to send us an email to this NEPO newsletter at gmail.com, we can sign you up for our quarterly. We'll put you on our distribution list. We send out just an update quarterly with kind of more current prayer requests, kind of what's happening at the home, so you can get a little more details with that, and then donations can be made through the foundation as well. And finally, we just like to close with this verse from Ephesians 3:20 through 21. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. We have seen God do immeasurably more in the boys' lives there at the home, in the ministry there, and in our lives as a family. And we just want to give him all the glory for everything that he has done there through support, through your prayers, and in that work down there. And so we'd just like to thank you again for this time as well.
Yeah, before we close, I would like to share with you, it's our ministry now. We are trying to take care of the kids who pass for the house. Mm-hmm. So we have lots of like 24, 26, or 30, or maybe 40 years, the kids who pass there, and they have no family. They think the home is their family. And we never think about it, what we could do for them after that. So last year, we spent there to help the new directors. And the time free, we invite some of those to have a barbecue, and then we have a meeting, and then we start talking. And most of them is not going to the church anymore because they came back to their families, and then they start new relationship, and some of them just forget about that. We know the word never come back empty. But we start, like, we have an app that we use a lot, WhatsApp in Brazil, and we have, I think, 4 groups that I'm talking about everything with them. And sometimes I just send a message to them and say, how are you now? And, oh, do you remember me? Do you know my name? And that is like, I'm trying to refresh their memories about the boys' home and then what they learned there. And we just have this past weekend, some of them send me a message asking for prayer. That make me know how that is really working. Like they remember what that mean. And we are planning to go to Brazil next time and to spend some time with them and like make some. We invite them just for a barbecue, not to talk about God, but this time we get the guitar and say and sing some songs, and then we have a pray time, and then that is working because they are asking us after that, and that can change their life and give them another chance to remember what they learned that. And I just would like to request you for prayer for that too, beside the boys' home, okay? And we would like to open for you if you have some question about the presentation for our life or this new ministry. You're free. We're open.
When the government changed the capacity, did that phase in, or how did they go from
Yeah.
a place with 70 kids down to 20?
It was actually really interesting because when I went down to Brazil for 6 months in 2012, and then when I left in 2012, there were 63 children there living there. When I came back in 2013, there were 5. So it was like a quick, like we're sending kids back, we're moving them out. It was a quick change.
But what happened beside that is all the towns can have to have their own place. Do you know what I mean? Like Nepo received maybe 100 miles around Nepo. And in that time, all the cities have to have their place to put the kids in from the government. And then they send all the kids back to their town.
Yeah, so Nepo was receiving a lot of boys from the surrounding
Yep.
towns. And so when they changed these laws and said, no, these boys need to stay in their towns, then it was we're shipping them back, and they just, I mean, some boys went back to horrific home situations because they weren't prepared. And
What is
it
good
was-
because like that still works. The family is never ready to receive them again, but it's another chance to them. And we had maybe 22 guys from a town who just send them there and forget about them. Like about the Christmas or Easter, they never think about them. And like a deposit, we just sending them. We're paying and you care of them. And then now they have to have their own place, and then it's closed from the family, and then they have to work with the family. So that is a good side of that.
Yeah, in theory, it's a good, what they're trying to do is good, but in the reality is sometimes it doesn't work as well as they would like it to do. But.
Some more question?
Yeah, so we were shut down. Actually, it kind of like it went real quick, as I'm sure it was here. It was one day to the next, they started shutting down everything. And so our boys didn't go to school. I mean, we weren't allowed to go to church. We were not allowed to go anywhere. Like we just stayed. Thankfully, we have extensive grounds. They could, be on the grounds, but for a long time. I mean, I don't remember how long it was here until you guys
We
started
have more
opening
time,
up,
yeah.
but we forever, I mean, for months and months, they didn't open things back up. Our church wasn't allowed to open back up. I think that was the end of March that it started there, that they started shutting down things, the middle of March. And I think it was February of the next year that our church was allowed to reopen.
Yeah,
It was,
And the boys' home is not from the government, but they regulate that a lot
Yeah.
because have their kids. Like we do their job, and we have to do like they ask us to do. And then we never could open before they say, yes, you can open.
yeah, and the home receives a lot of visitors, like on weekends, people will come in, do activities with the boys, different things, and like during COVID, no one was allowed in. For the longest time, no one was like, we weren't allowed in, out, no one was allowed in, like it was a long time that it really was affected.
Actually, the missionary committee went there, and they could not see the kids.
Yeah, they couldn't have contact
in
with
this time,
the
after
boys.
the pandemic.
Yeah,
They spent like money and time to go there, and they could not see the kids.
yeah.
That's a hard time. And we have just teenagers in that time. We have 5 teenagers. That's
Yeah.
hard time.
Oh, yes.
Do you
Yeah.
mean in the home or around?
I mean, in general, drugs do some bad stuff. I mean, is that what y'all these hoes?
That is the
Yeah.
most problem who send the kids to
Yeah.
there.
Most of the parents are drug addicts, alcoholics.
Because when they have a couple using drugs, their relatives cannot take care of the kids because they think they are able to do.
Yeah.
They never say, okay, take care of my kids. So if like my case, my brother would take care of my kids, I would go there and no, that's my kids, I want my kids, and they cause lots of problems because that they send to the
Yeah,
boys' home.
because before they send them to the home, they reach out to family, they reach out to extended friends and see, does anyone want to take these kids in? And then if anyone does, they just stay with the families, but if they don't, then they come to our home. But we actually, at one point, we cared for a baby who, when he was born, he was actually born addicted to crack, to heroin, because his mom was an absolute addict. And so, yeah, definitely a big problem
Yeah.
down there.
Used to be a big cities problem, but because the global things, that goes forever.
Yeah.
Where
No, they're actually, the home is free to hire who they choose, so that is nice. So we have a say over who the social worker is, who the psychologist is, and they actually work, they don't do counseling with the boys, they more work like, let's talk about how your home visit was, and then they work directly with the families. It's more of a, just it's part of the process and trying to get them reintegrated back into the home.
Yeah, that just changed and used to be a good problem for us, looking for Christians workers and have no one.
Yeah, it's
That
really
is a
hard.
big challenge there. But because we are afraid about what they're going to do, and then we just realize they're not going to work with the kids directly, like counseling them. It's just they works as a communication between the kids and the judge. They make relators?
Reports.
Reports for the judgment. And that they spend a time with the kids, hurting them what they need, what their question, and then bring to the judgment.
Is there a big Catholic presence there that does stuff?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, the whole,
The whole country's Catholic.
yeah, the whole country's Catholic, yeah.
Yeah, you can see that on the news. It's more we call evangelical. Is what is the name that you use here?
Evangelical? Mm-hmm.
But it's just because the media. We have a lots of church who go to the media, and yeah, that's hard to explain that.
What does a typical day look like for the caregivers and the children that are in the home?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just like I'm a stay-at-home mom, go out and play, or do they also attend some of the after-school activities as well if they're older enough?
Yeah, so depending on their age. So with the little ones, it's just a typical day. You wake up, give them breakfast, let them play. They sometimes, if they're a little older, like these ones that just came are kind of younger. They're still a year older than the ones 13 months. And so they're not really doing anything like formal. It's more just free play and taking care of them, naps. And but
That is what the social work can help, like make
a schedule.
A schedule. Because they take turn taking care of the kids, and they need something that is the same.
Consistent routines.
Yeah.
And so they do try and maintain a consistent routine, because oftentimes the caregivers, they'll work, so if like 1 week at a time, one caregiver couple, when we had 2 couples, they would work the morning shift and like morning and afternoon until about 5. And then the next caregiver couple would take over at 5 and spend the night and then get them up and ready for school. So the older boys, they go to school in the morning, and so they're getting up around 5:36 to get out to school, but then they're home by 12:30. And so the older ones who are the school age can participate, they do participate in the after-school program with the kids who come in from the town. And so they are involved in those activities. But then when the after-school program is over at 5:36, then it's a normal, typical home, like what you do in your home. You prepare dinner, they do a devotional with them after dinner, help with any homework they didn't get done with in the after-school program, and then they have a free time, free play until bedtime. And so it's a huge difference now with this home system, because before, like when I first went down, when there was 70 kids, it was just real
Like army.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was very not like a home feel at all, not at all, like very rigid, and lots of kids everywhere all the time, and very unstructured. And so now there is more structure, there is more what you would see in a typical home situation. The reason we rotate in caregivers instead of kids going to live with one caregiver 24/7 is. There's a couple reasons, but one of the things is you want the boys to have a good bond with the caregiver, but you don't want to get them so attached that when it's time for them to go back to their families, they don't want to, I mean, oftentimes they don't want to leave anyway, but we want to make sure that that bond there isn't so close that it's another huge loss for them, because they've already suffered so many losses in their life, but. Not always. No, we have a lot who phase out, who are there until they're 18, and then once they turn 18, they have to leave. And so oftentimes when that happens, we'll try and prepare somewhere for them to stay when they have to leave, something for them to do, some type of job or something like that. And then like Elton was saying last year, when we turned over the directorship, he started reaching out to these ones who had recently phased out to kind of bring them under, like disciple them and
Yeah,
mentor
actually,
them.
we have one of just turned 18 working there, back
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
a
so
as a farmer.
The
That's
farmhand,
interesting.
this kid in the blue shirt there, we actually cared for him as a caregiver, him and his brothers. And he came back. He turned 18, phased out. He was a year or two with his family. I mean, he went back to live with his mom, who was a drug addict, but he didn't get involved in anything. And then he actually, when the position opened up, we talked to him about it and brought him back under as this farmhand. And he's doing great. Like he's thriving. It's really it's exciting to see. It's
He's working there for
encouraging.
3 years right now.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So.
Is Brazil like America? I mean, because in America, there's kids, there's drug addicts everywhere. There's bad stuff here too. Is Brazil worse, different, poor? I mean, how is it compared to America?
I do
I'm
understand.
just trying to understand.
Tá perguntando se é igual a América, que é pobre, drogas,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I mean, the school systems there are terrible. It's not very, especially the area we're in. I mean, it's a poorer region, and so you don't get a lot of help from the community. Like we're good friends with the director down at CLM, and down there it's a totally different reality because they have a great, they're in a great area. They get a lot of support from the community, the government there. That's not the case here in Nepo. It's
They're in
just
the German area
yeah.
around.
So there's a
Lots
lot of
Germans,
wealth down
yeah.
there. That it's just a different reality
Nepo
up
is a
here.
port town.
Yeah, in Nepo, and definitely a lot of drugs. I mean, young kids getting involved in selling drugs. Yeah.
But they had quite a few folks from Germany settled in where CLM is. That's why they've got that German influence and so forth.
Yeah.
And, your personal opinion, the situation going from, let's say, they would probably say over here, warehousing kids to this new program over time, is it working or is it not working or is it still getting through the bumps?
Traduz.
Está perguntando se a mudança de sistema que estava para agora está funcionando ou ainda tem crianças caindo no sistema. Tipo,
Yeah, I still have.
yeah, there's still kids that fall through the cracks, and a lot of them. But I feel like with the situation we have here, personally, like at the home, it's working a whole lot better than it used to work. But the system as a whole, what they're trying to do in Brazil is just not a good system. I mean, a lot of kids fall through the system, and the fact that the government just turned, like there are cases where you can see the child is being neglected, you can see the child is not being cared for at his home, and the government doesn't want to do anything about it, because if they send him to the home, that looks bad for the government. And that's part of the reason a lot of these kids who participate in the after-school program are kids from these at-risk homes, these homes that are really, they really need help. But
Yeah, you asked for our personal thought about it. I would like to have after-school program every day to have more involvement with the kids. Like every day, they know what they're doing, and they are doing one day yes, one day no. That they have lots of, they're free on the day that they are not going on. In my opinion, we could have that daily, and then they go to school and go through the boys' home and spend the time there. And then they could have like less kids, but more time with them, but they go home after that.
Yeah, so they have morning and afternoon after school program, but each day is only one group. Does that make sense? So that's what he's saying. He would like to see them incorporate it every day, both morning and afternoon. So every day in morning and afternoon groups go, so it's more consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So government has a lot of say-so in what goes on in,
The government has a lot of say-so who comes into the home, so the boys who go there. But what we do within the home, they, like he was mentioning, we legally are not allowed to share the Bible with them, but we do it, and they know we do it, and they so far has not caused us any problems. But they don't have a say yet in those kind of day-to-day, what happens at the home.
Because what they have to do is close the place, but then they have to spend money because we are doing their job.
Yeah.
Because that they, okay, I know you were doing, it's not bad, but you could not keep doing that.
in other words, you're doing the government a favor.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are glad because they will understand that.
Yeah.
Because,
So in the future, you have really two programs. You have those teenagers that you're raising in the home there, and then you have these after school.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you see both of those expanding? Do you see yourself switching more to the after school or more to the accommodating?
Yeah, I think the focus will be on growing the after-school program because the way the Brazilians are moving is they say they're trying to phase out orphanages. Now, they've been saying that for at least 10, 15 years, and they haven't phased them out yet because they would like to move into a foster-type system family like they do here in the States. But until they get from the idea to the actually putting that into practice, they have a lot of work to do to have that happen. And so, but because of that, we would like to continue more focus on the after-school program because we can choose, like we can open that up to lots of children. We don't have to be dependent on the government, wait for the government to send people to us. So,
it's less regulation.
yeah, and a lot of less regulation.
Well, having just come back from Paraguay, I think that's one of the things we noticed that it's
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah, Paraguay has an awesome after school. I mean, I think they're real successful in what they do there.
Yeah, I think most of the problem is, in my case, was that the orphanage is open for 60 years. It's not easy like, let's close this and do this. Because you have lots of history behind it, that, and I think that have been the hard part of decision to open more the after school. Just to start that would a big challenge, and we did. And now I think we need more time to amadurecer. Yeah,
Yeah.
figure out. Yeah, but I think that is the way. If we wanna have that ministry there, I think that is the way.
I know you folks are trying to get back to DC.
Oh, it's fine.
Are there any other?
Oh, we put our contact there. If you have more question there, you can just ask us, and we can have our phone number if you have some question. If you want to go to visit there.
Yeah.
I think we've got a little feel for that just recently here. And there was a group of the younger ones who weren't old enough to go, so they should definitely be.
Yeah.
It's
And
nice.
some of those who went to Paraguay, I think they're interested to see how they can grow in places. So
Yeah.
we thank you so much for having taken the time to come down and present to us. I guess I would suggest maybe we could say County Wisdom 177 in the Red Book, and then there were a couple of things you wanted specific prayer requests for. I think for some of the caretakers.
Yeah, the couples.
And then our discipleship program with the boys who have left, who have phased out of the.
Discipleship of the ones who left and who take back to the Lord. So if one of the brothers would
thy goodness. We thank you for thy mercy, thy love. We thank you for the gift of Jesus who died upon the cross, who shed his blood that we might have life and have it abundantly, and that we can have this fellowship.